37 million tons of logs stuck in a river 7 miles long, 30 feet deep, 600,000 individual logs, 150 million board feet of lumber, worth $500,000. That's $16 million modern. All jammed, all blocked, all threatening to break loose and pour into Lake Michigan. July 26, 1883, Grand Rapids, Michigan. The Grand River is flooding, rising 20 inches above normal. Weeks of rain, heavy rain, constant rain. The lumbermen try to take advantage, float more logs while water is high, send everything downstream, to the sawmills, maximize production, but they send too much, too fast. The logs jam, pile up, stack against the Grand Trunk Railroad Bridge, 2 miles north of downtown. The bridge becomes a dam, a barrier. Everything stops, everything accumulates. 7 miles of river filled solid with logs. 30 feet deep in places. 37 million tons of timber, pressing, building pressure. The structure groans, the logs creak. Shift, heave, then it breaks. The morning of July 26th, the jam releases. 600,000 logs surge downstream. A wooden tsunami. They destroy every railroad bridge in Grand Rapids, tear them apart, smash them to splinters. 2 hours of destruction. Residents watch helplessly. The logs roar past, heading for Lake Michigan. If they reach the lake, they're lost. They'll scatter, sink, disappear. $500,000 gone. The furniture industry destroyed. Grand Rapids dies. But one man stands between the logs and disaster. Captain John Walsh, one-armed Marine engineer. He conceives a plan, builds a barricade, drives pilings, creates a boom, stops 37 million tons of logs, saves the industry, becomes a hero, gets a gold watch. The watch still exists, still on display at the Tri-Cities Historical Museum in Grand Haven. This is his story. This is how one man stopped the deadliest log jam in American history. If you're the kind of person who believes these stories deserve to be remembered, hit subscribe. Captain John Walsh saved an entire industry with courage and engineering skill, but he's almost completely forgotten. Subscribe if you think heroes like him deserve recognition. If you think we should remember who actually saved America's communities. Grand Rapids in 1883 is the furniture capital of America. Already earned that title. The city produces more furniture than anywhere else in the country. The reason is simple: lumber. The Grand River provides transportation, connects forests upstream to sawmills in Grand Rapids, connects sawmills to Lake Michigan. On 2 markets everywhere. The entire system depends on the river, on log drives, on floating timber from logging camps to mills. During spring and early summer, millions of logs float downstream. The sawmills catch them in booms, sort them, process them, turn them into lumber, into furniture, into wealth. The industry employs thousands, supports the entire region. Without it, Grand Rapids is nothing. Just another small Michigan town. With it, Grand Rapids is Furniture City, industrial center, economic powerhouse. Everything depends on those logs reaching the mills. Nothing can interrupt that flow. Nothing can threaten that supply. But in July 1883, something does. The rain starts in early July. Heavy rain, day after day, week after week. The ground saturates, rivers rise, the Grand River swells, rises higher than normal. The lumbermen notice, see opportunity. High water means faster flow, means logs move easier, travel quicker. They release more logs, empty the storage booms upstream, send everything down, maximize the advantage. Take every log that's ready. Float it now, while conditions are perfect. Normally they'd stage releases, pace them, manage flow rates, but high water is temporary, must use it while it lasts. So they send everything, all at once. Hundreds of thousands of logs enter the river within days, all heading downstream, all flowing toward Grand Rapids. The volume is unprecedented, more logs than ever before, more than the river can handle smoothly. But the lumbermen don't realize this. They see high water, fast current, perfect conditions. They keep sending logs. The disaster builds upstream. The Grand Trunk Railroad Bridge stands 2 miles north of downtown Grand Rapids. Steel and wood construction. Spans the river, carries trains across. The piers sit in the river, create obstacles, usually not a problem. Logs flow around them, pass beneath the span, continue downstream. But with unprecedented volume, problems start. A few logs catch on the piers, hang up. More logs arrive, catch on the hung logs, build up, create a small jam. More logs keep coming. The jam grows, blocks more of the channel, narrows the opening, forces more logs into tighter space. The pressure increases. The jam compacts, solidifies. Within hours, the bridge is completely blocked. Logs stack upstream, 30 feet deep. The mass extends backward 1 mile, 2 miles, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 miles of solid logs. The entire river from the bridge back to Comstock Park is one continuous jam. 600,000 logs, 150 million board feet, 37 million tons, all stuck, all pressing against each other, against the bridge. The structure strains, the timbers groan, the iron bends. Something must give. Either the jam breaks loose or the bridge collapses. Both options are catastrophic. The jam develops gradually over 3 days. The first logs arrive July 23rd, pass through without issue. The bridge piers create minor turbulence, but nothing problematic. More logs arrive, the flow increases. Still manageable, but then a large log, maybe 40 feet long, 30 inches in diameter, catches. Wedges between two piers. The current pushes it, tries to force it through. But the angle is wrong. The log is stuck. The next log hits the stuck log. Catches. Now 2 logs are wedged. The third log catches on those. The jam begins. Small at first, maybe 10 logs, 20. The current continues bringing more. Each arriving log makes the jam worse, larger, more solid. Within an hour, maybe 50 logs are jammed. Within 2 hours, maybe 200. The accumulation accelerates. The jammed logs create a growing barrier, force arriving logs to pile up, stack higher. By evening of July 23rd, the jam extends a quarter mile upstream, maybe 5,000 logs. By morning of July 24th, half a mile, 20,000 logs. By evening, 1 mile, 80,000 logs. The mass is growing exponentially. Each added log makes it harder for subsequent logs to pass. The barrier becomes more solid, more impenetrable. By July 25th, the jam is 3 miles long, maybe 300,000 logs. By evening of July 25th, 5 miles, 500,000 logs. Morning of July 26th, 7 miles, 600,000 logs. The entire upstream section of the Grand River within the Grand Rapids area is solid timber, bank to bank, surface to bottom. The depth varies. Shallow sections may be 10 feet deep, deep sections 30 feet. The average is perhaps 20 feet. A 20-foot depth of floating logs. That's 10 to 15 logs stacked vertically. Each log weighing maybe 500 to 1,000 pounds. The weight is incomprehensible. Millions of pounds per linear foot of river. Tens of millions of pounds per mile. The pressure on the bridge is beyond calculation. Beyond anything the structure was designed to withstand. The bridge itself was built for trains, not for 37 million tons of lateral pressure. The piers are stone and concrete, maybe 8 feet square at the base, tapering to 6 feet at the top, 20 feet tall from riverbed to bridge deck. These piers are strong in compression, built to support vertical loads, the weight of trains passing overhead, but lateral loads, horizontal pressure, are different. The piers aren't designed for sideways forces. The logs push, constantly. The current adds force. The weight of logs stacked upstream adds more. The total lateral force might exceed 10 million pounds, maybe more. The physics are brutal. The piers begin to crack. Concrete fractures. Mortar between stones crumbles. The structural integrity degrades, slowly at first, then faster. By morning of July 26th, the bridge is failing, not collapsed yet. but failing. The piers are visibly damaged, tilted, displaced. The span itself sags. The iron beams bend under stress. Railroad officials know the bridge is doomed. Stop all train traffic. Evacuate anyone nearby. Wait for the inevitable. It comes at approximately 8 a.m., July 26, 1883. The bridge fails catastrophically. The failure starts with the upstream pier, the one taking maximum pressure. The concrete cracks completely, splits vertically. The upper section breaks off, falls into the river. The pier loses maybe 30% of its height, can no longer support the span. The iron beams drop, sag onto the logs. The weight bends them further. The downstream pier still stands, creates a pivot point. The span rotates, one end in the river, one end still attached to the downstream pier. The logs push under it, lift it, break it free. The entire span collapses into the river, falls onto the jammed logs. The structure, maybe 150 feet long, weighing dozens of tons, slams down. The impact is tremendous. The sound carries for miles. Then the logs begin moving. The barrier is gone. The pressure releases. 600,000 logs surge forward. Not gradually, not in sections, all at once. The entire 7-mile mass starts moving simultaneously. The force is unimaginable. The sound is like continuous thunder, deep, rumbling, shaking the ground. People in downtown Grand Rapids, 2 miles away, feel it. Feel the vibration through buildings, through pavement, through their feet. The logs travel maybe 15 to 20 miles per hour, faster than the river current, pushed by the mass behind them, by accumulated pressure, by gravity. The leading edge is a solid wall of timber, moving fast, unstoppable, destructive beyond measure. Morning of July 26th. The bridge fails, the jam breaks, not gradually, suddenly, catastrophically. The mass releases all at once. 600,000 logs surge forward. The sound is overwhelming. Like thunder, continuous. The ground shakes, buildings vibrate. People hear it miles away. Come running to see, watch from riverbanks, from windows, from rooftops. The logs fill the river completely, bank to bank, surface to bottom, a solid mass moving at incredible speed. The current is maybe 5 to 10 miles per hour normally. The logs travel faster, pushed by pressure, by the mass behind them, by gravity and momentum, maybe 15 to 20 miles per hour. Faster on curves. The Grand River winds through Grand Rapids, multiple curves, multiple bridges. The logs hit the first railroad bridge, the Detroit, Grand Haven, and Milwaukee Bridge, near Fulton Street. The bridge stands, for maybe seconds. The pressure is enormous. 37 million tons pressing forward. The piers crack, break. The span collapses, falls into the river, gets swept away. Destroyed. The logs continue, hit the next bridge, the Wealthy Street Bridge, same result. Pier failure, span collapse, total destruction. Then the next bridge, then the next. Every railroad bridge in Grand Rapids gets destroyed within minutes. Completely obliterated, swept away. Nothing remains. Pedestrian bridges suffer too. Wooden footbridges, covered bridges, street bridges. Some are damaged, pilings knocked loose, spans lifted off foundations, connections broken. Others are completely destroyed, torn apart, carried away. The Pearl Street covered bridge survives, barely. People crowd on it. Watch the disaster. The bridge sways, creaks, seems likely to fail, but holds. Photographs from that day show crowds on the bridge, watching hundreds of thousands of logs passing beneath. The expressions are terror mixed with fascination. Nobody has seen anything like this. Nobody imagined such devastation. The logs keep coming. The destruction continues. For 2 hours. From the bridge break to the last logs passing. 2 full hours of continuous destruction. Of roaring water and crashing timber. Of collapsing structures and helpless watching. The damage is catastrophic. The bridges are gone. Transportation is crippled. The economic impact is immediate. But the real disaster is still coming. The logs are heading for Lake Michigan. If they reach open water, they scatter, disappear, can't be recovered, $500,000 lost? The furniture industry collapses. Grand Rapids dies. Unless someone stops them. These men didn't have YouTube channels. They didn't have anyone telling their story. We're changing that. Captain John Walsh and his crew faced death to save their city. Worked in conditions that would kill most men. Subscribe if you think their courage deserves recognition. Captain John Walsh works for White and Friant Lumber Company, one of the major sawmill operators in the region. Their mill is in what was then called Nortonville, now Spring Lake Township, downriver from Grand Rapids, closer to Lake Michigan. Walsh is a marine engineer, operates a steam-powered pile driver. Despite being one-armed, he lost his arm in an industrial accident years earlier. He's one of the best in the business, skilled, reliable, experienced. When news reaches White and Friant that the jam has broken, that hundreds of thousands of logs are heading their way, panic sets in. The mill is downstream, in the path. But the mill isn't the real problem. The real problem is Lake Michigan. Once logs enter the lake, they're gone, unrecoverable. The company stands to lose everything: their logs, their investment, their future. Someone must stop the logs before they reach the lake. Someone must build a barrier, a boom strong enough to hold 37 million tons. Nobody volunteers. The other crews refuse. Too dangerous, too impossible. The pressure is unimaginable. The forces are deadly. If the boom fails while men are working on it, they die. Crushed, drowned, no question. Several boom crews abandon their equipment, refuse to work, walk away. But Walsh doesn't refuse. He understands the stakes, understands what failure means. For the company, for the region, for thousands of workers, he conceives a plan, a desperate plan, impossible plan. He'll drive pilings, create an artificial barrier, build a boom strong enough to stop the logs, channel them into a controlled area, save everything, or die trying. The location is critical. Walsh chooses a point near Grand Haven, where the river widens slightly, where depth allows pile driving, where banks provide anchoring points. He has maybe hours. The logs are traveling 15 to 20 miles per hour. From Grand Rapids to Grand Haven is about 45 miles by river, maybe 3 to 4 hours maximum before the first logs arrive. Walsh must drive enough pilings to create a functional boom in under 4 hours, with a one-armed crew boss and however many men he can convince to help. The pile driver is steam-powered, a large barge-mounted machine, a tall framework, a heavy weight, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of cast iron, lifted by steam winch, dropped onto pile tops. Drives them into the riverbed. Each pile is maybe 12 to 18 inches in diameter, 20 to 30 feet long, driven 10 to 15 feet into the mud. Each pile takes maybe 15 to 30 minutes to drive, depending on bottom conditions, rock or clay or mud. Walsh needs dozens of piles, maybe 50, maybe more, driven in precise locations, exact spacing. The spacing is critical. Too wide and logs slip through, too narrow and the boom becomes too rigid. Might break catastrophically. Walsh calculates everything mentally. No time for paper, for formal plans, just experience, intuition, understanding of forces and structures. He positions the pile driver, fires the boiler, builds steam pressure, begins driving. Walsh examines the river section carefully before starting, walks the banks, wades into shallows, probes the bottom with a long pole, feels for composition. Soft mud, firm clay, rock. The bottom condition determines pile depth, determines holding power. In soft mud, piles must go deeper, need more penetration, more friction area, more holding capacity. In firm clay or bedrock, less depth needed. The material itself provides resistance. Walsh finds a section with clay bottom. Good condition, firm but not too hard. Can drive piles efficiently, won't take excessive time. He marks the locations, uses stakes on shore, lines of sight, calculates spacing mentally. The piles must form a line across the river, perpendicular to current, angled slightly upstream. The angle is important, creates better force distribution, allows logs to press against the boom at an angle, spreads the load, prevents concentration of stress on individual piles. The angle is maybe 15 degrees off perpendicular. Subtle but critical. Walsh knows this from experience, from years of boom construction, from understanding how logs interact with barriers, from seeing what works and what fails. The pile driver is positioned for the first pile. The barge is maybe 30 feet long, 15 feet wide. The wooden framework rises 25 feet above the deck. The steam winch sits amidships. Boiler behind it. The hammer weight hangs from cables. Currently raised to the top of the framework, ready, the first pile is selected, white oak, 14 inches in diameter. 25 feet long, weighs maybe 800 pounds. Fresh cut, still has bark. The bark will rot off underwater, but doesn't matter for now. The pile is manhandled into position, lifted. Positioned vertical beneath the hammer. Held steady by guide rails. The butt end, the bottom, is pointed, sharpened to help penetrate. The top end is flat. Will receive the hammer blows. Walsh checks alignment, uses a plumb line, ensures the pile is perfectly vertical. Any tilt means the pile will bend during driving, will break or will not penetrate properly. Alignment is critical. He signals the winch operator, a young man, maybe 20 years old, nervous but trained. He engages the clutch, releases the brake. The hammer drops. Free fall, 25 feet. The impact is explosive. The sound is like a cannon shot. The pile jumps, drives down, maybe 12 inches on first blow. The impact energy is enormous. A 2,000-pound weight dropping 25 feet generates 50,000 foot-pounds of energy. Most transfers to the pile, drives it into the riverbed. The pile settles. The hammer is raised again. Steam hisses. The winch reels in cable. The hammer climbs, reaches the top, drops again. Another massive impact. The pile drives another 12 inches. Raise, drop. 12 inches. Raise, drop. 12 inches. The rhythm is constant, mechanical. Each cycle takes maybe 30 seconds. Raise time is the constraint. The steam winch isn't fast, limited by boiler pressure, by mechanical advantage, 30 seconds per blow, 2 blows per minute. To drive a pile 15 feet requires 15 blows at 1 foot per blow. That's 7.5 minutes at ideal rate. In reality, penetration slows as the pile goes deeper. Early blows drive farther, later blows drive less. The last few blows might drive only 6 inches, or 4 inches, or 2. As the pile reaches final depth, the material resists more, compacts more. It requires more energy per inch of progress. The final pile depth, 15 feet for this first one, requires maybe 20 to 25 blows total. That's 10 to 12 minutes of continuous driving. Then add positioning time, moving the barge, aligning the next pile. That adds another 10 minutes. Total time per pile, 20 to 25 minutes under ideal conditions. But conditions aren't ideal. The river current pushes the barge. Repositioning is difficult, requires careful manipulation. Anchoring. The crew uses ropes to shore, pulls the barge into position, sets temporary anchors, drives the pile, lifts anchors, moves, repeats. The process is slow, cumbersome. The crew size matters. Walsh has maybe 6 to 8 men initially. Some refuse to continue after seeing the approaching logs. Walk off, desert. Walsh curses them. Can't blame them. The danger is obvious, real, immediate, but needs the men. Convinces 2 to stay, threatens them with firing, with blacklisting, promises bonuses, whatever works. The remaining crew is now Walsh plus 4 men, plus the steam engineer tending the boiler. 6 people total, to drive maybe 50 piles, to build a boom to stop 37 million tons. The math is daunting. The timeline is impossible. But Walsh doesn't accept impossibility. Just works. Drives pile after pile, moves forward. The first pile is done, second pile starts. The positioning is more difficult. Must align with the first pile. Create the correct angle, the correct spacing. Walsh measures by eye. By experience, no instruments, no surveying tools, just judgment. He positions the second pile, maybe 30 feet from the first. Horizontal spacing. The gap will be filled by chains later. For now, just the pile. Drive it. The hammer drops, the pile drives. 12 minutes later, it's at depth. Move to the third pile. Position. Drive. 12 minutes. Fourth pile. Position. Drive. 12 minutes. The rhythm continues, but time is short. Too short. The logs are coming. The first pile goes in. Takes 20 minutes. The steam winch lifts the weight. Positions it. Drops it. The impact is thunderous. The pile drives down. 18 inches. Lift. Drop. 18 more inches. Lift. Drop. Again. The pile reaches depth. Holds firm. First one complete. 49 more to go. No time. Walsh drives his crew. Demands maximum speed. The men are terrified. They know what's coming. Know the danger. But Walsh's confidence is contagious. His determination is absolute. They work. Move the pile driver. Position the next pile. Drive it. Move again. Repeat. The work is hot. July in Michigan, 90-degree temperatures, humid. The boiler radiates heat. The men sweat, dehydrate. But don't stop. Can't stop. The logs are coming. Time is running out. They drive 5 piles, 10 piles, 20, 30. The boom takes shape. Walsh chains them together, heavy logging chains, connecting pile to pile, creating a continuous barrier, calculating tension, distribution of forces. Everything must be exact. One weak point means total failure, means death for everyone nearby. 2 hours in, maybe halfway done, a lookout shouts, points upstream. The logs are visible. A dark mass on the water, miles away but approaching. Walsh doesn't panic. Calculates, estimates speed, distance, time remaining. Maybe 1 hour, maybe 90 minutes. Must finish. Must complete the boom, or everything fails. He pushes harder, drives the crew mercilessly. No breaks, no rest, just work. The pile driver operates at maximum capacity. The boiler screams. The safety valve pops repeatedly, releasing pressure, preventing explosion. The men work through exhaustion, through fear, through certainty of death if they fail. 40 piles, 45, 50. The boom is nearly complete. Just a few more, 5 more, 3, 1. The final pile goes in, gets chained. The boom is done, complete. From bank to bank, a barrier of driven pilings and logging chains, designed to hold 37 million tons, or kill everyone trying. Walsh orders everyone off, evacuate the pile driver, get to shore, distance themselves from the boom. If it fails, best to be far away. The crew flees, abandons equipment, reaches shore. Turns to watch. The logs are closer, maybe a mile away, maybe less. The sound is audible. Distant thunder, growing louder, coming closer. If you want to go deeper into these stories, if you want early access to videos before anyone else sees them, join the membership. It's for people who don't just watch history, they carry it forward. Captain Walsh's gold watch still exists in a museum. Physical proof that heroes like him were real. Join the membership if you want to help us preserve these complete stories. The logs hit. The sound is indescribable. Like an explosion but continuous. Lasting minutes, tens of minutes. The first logs hit the boom. Pile up, stop. The logs behind them hit those. Pile higher. The mass accumulates. The pressure builds. Thousands of logs, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. All pressing against Walsh's boom. The pilings strain. Bend forward, the chains go taut, stretch. The stress is visible. The entire structure flexes, moves, seems certain to fail. Spectators watch from shore, from boats at safe distance. Hundreds have gathered. Everyone in Grand Haven, everyone downstream, watching to see if Walsh's boom holds, if the logs are stopped, or if disaster comes. The pressure keeps building. More logs arrive every minute. The mass is incomprehensible. Logs 30 feet deep, miles long, 37 million tons pressing against a boom built in 4 hours by desperate men. The physics seem impossible, the force is too great, the structure too improvised. But Walsh knew what he was doing. Calculated correctly, built correctly. The boom holds. The pilings bend but don't break. The chains stretch but don't snap. The logs stop. When accumulate, stack safely. The disaster is averted. Grand Haven erupts. People cheer, shout, celebrate. Walsh and his crew are heroes. They did the impossible. Stopped an unstoppable force, saved the industry, saved the region, saved everything. The first impact comes at approximately 11:30 a.m. The leading edge of the log mass reaches Walsh's boom. The first log is massive, maybe 50 feet long, 36 inches in diameter. Douglas fir, probably. Weighs maybe 3,000 pounds. Traveling at 20 miles per hour, the kinetic energy is enormous. The log strikes the boom chains between two pilings. The chain catches it, stops it. The log's momentum transfers to the chain, to the pilings. The pilings flex forward, maybe 6 inches. The chain stretches, maybe 2 inches. The energy dissipates. The log stops, floats against the boom. Harmless now. But the next log arrives within seconds, hits the first log, piles behind it, then another, then 10 more, then 100. Within minutes, maybe 1,000 logs are pressed against the boom. The pressure increases geometrically. Each new log adds its weight, its momentum, its force. The pilings bend further, 12 inches now, 18 inches. The chains stretch more, 4 inches, 6 inches. The stress is approaching limits, but the limits hold. The pilings were driven deep, 15 feet into clay bottom. The clay grips them, provides enormous friction, enormous resistance. The chains are logging chains, heavy iron, 3/4-inch links, rated for tons of tension. They stretch but hold. The boom flexes but functions, exactly as designed, exactly as Walsh calculated. The mathematics were correct. The engineering was sound, the execution was perfect. The log accumulation continues for nearly an hour. The last logs from the 7-mile jam arrive around 12:30 p.m. By then, perhaps 300,000 logs are stacked against the boom. The front third of the original jam. The remaining 300,000 logs are scattered along the river, spread over 40 miles, will arrive over the next few hours, days even. The initial crisis is over. The boom held against the worst pressure, the densest concentration. If it survived that, it will survive the rest. Walsh knows this, relaxes slightly, allows himself to breathe, to feel the exhaustion, the terror, the relief. His crew collapses, sits on the shore, shaking, crying some of them, laughing others. The adrenaline drains, leaves them empty, exhausted, but alive, successful. They built something impossible. Made it work, saved everything. Walsh watches the boom, inspects it visually from shore. The pilings are bent, permanently deformed, but holding. The chains are stretched, longer than original length, but intact, no breaks, no failures. The boom will need repairs, reinforcement, but it's functional. Will continue holding, will contain the logs, allow sorting, allow recovery. The job is done, the crisis is past, Grand Haven is saved, the industry is saved, Walsh has succeeded. The spectators on shore realize the danger is over, begin cheering, clapping, shouting Walsh's name. He waves, acknowledges them, but doesn't celebrate, too exhausted, too aware of how close they came to failure. If any pile had broken, if any chain had snapped, if the bottom had been softer, if the spacing had been wrong, everything would have failed. Catastrophically. The logs would have surged past, into Lake Michigan, lost forever. The industry would have collapsed. Grand Rapids would have died. The region would have been ruined, but none of that happened. Because Walsh got it right, because his calculations were accurate, because his crew worked faster than seemed possible, because luck favored them, or providence, or whatever force governs such things. The result is success, complete success. The boom holds. The logs are contained. The day is saved. News spreads rapidly. Telegraph messages to Grand Rapids, to Detroit, to Chicago, to mill owners, to investors, to anyone with stake in the lumber industry. The messages are short, triumphant. Boom holds. Logs stopped. Industry saved. The response is immediate, relief, celebration. Orders pour in for Walsh, for his company. White and Friant becomes famous, gets recognition, gets contracts, gets business. The log jam disaster becomes their marketing story, how they saved the industry, how their engineer performed miracles, how their boom stopped the unstoppable. The company thrives, grows, prospers, and Walsh becomes a legend, a local hero, known throughout Michigan, throughout the lumber industry. The one-armed engineer who saved Grand Rapids, who built the impossible boom, who refused to quit, who succeeded where others fled. His reputation is made, his legacy is secured. But the immediate aftermath requires work, practical work. The logs must be sorted, processed, delivered. The boom must be reinforced, made permanent. The temporary structure Walsh built in 4 hours must become a long-term facility. This takes weeks, months. More pilings get driven, more chains installed, gates added, channels created. The boom becomes a sophisticated sorting system, handling the 600,000 recovered logs, plus all the logs that continue arriving. The river drive didn't end, just had a catastrophic interruption. Normal operations resume, with better booms, better systems, better preparedness. The lessons learned prevent future disasters, improve safety, improve efficiency. The industry learns, adapts, continues, all because Walsh's boom held. But the work isn't finished. The logs are stopped but not sorted, not delivered. They're jammed against the boom. Must be processed, separated, sorted by owner, guided to appropriate sawmills. This takes weeks, months. Crews work all summer, into fall, breaking up the mass, using peavies, dynamite where necessary, creating channels, guiding logs through. The boom becomes a sorting area, a massive operation. White and Friant employs boom men, river drivers, specialists. They walk on the floating logs, work 12-hour days, sort hundreds of logs daily. Slowly the jam clears, the logs get processed, the mills receive their timber, production resumes, the furniture industry survives. Grand Rapids remains Furniture City. All because Walsh's boom held. All because one-armed engineer refused to give up, refused to let a city die, built something impossible, made it work, saved everything. The aftermath reveals the damage. The railroad bridges in Grand Rapids are completely destroyed. Rebuilding takes months, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Detroit, Grand Haven, and Milwaukee Bridge, the Grand Trunk Bridge, gone, must be completely rebuilt. Passenger and freight service is disrupted for months. Alternative routes must be found. Ferry service is established. The economic impact is substantial, but manageable. Because the logs were saved, $500,000 of timber recovered, processed, sold. That revenue funds repairs, funds recovery, funds rebuilding. Without that timber, the region would have collapsed economically, businesses would have failed, workers would have been unemployed, the disaster would have been permanent. Walsh's boom prevented that. His courage, his skill, his refusal to accept defeat made the difference between survival and destruction. White and Friant Lumber Company recognizes this, understands what Walsh accomplished. They present him with a gold watch, not just any watch, a special watch, engraved, inscribed with his name, with the date, with recognition of his bravery. The watch becomes Walsh's most prized possession. He carries it for the rest of his life. When he dies, date uncertain from records, the watch passes to his family. Eventually it's donated to the Tri-Cities Historical Museum in Grand Haven, where it remains today. On display, a physical reminder, proof that Walsh was real, that his achievement happened, that one man made a difference. Museum visitors can see it, read the inscription, learn the story, connect with history. This is what remembrance looks like. Physical artifacts, preserved stories, heroes not forgotten. Stuart Edward White, son of White and Friant co-owner, writes about the event, publishes an account in Popular Monthly magazine, 1901, 18 years after the jam. His article describes the drama, the courage, the impossible odds. He describes crews refusing to work, abandoning ships, too afraid to face the approaching logs. He describes Walsh's firm leadership, his unwavering determination, how Walsh's confidence inspired his crew, made them believe the impossible was possible. White's account becomes the primary historical record, preserves details that would otherwise be lost, names, dates, specifics. Without his article, much of this story would be forgotten. Walsh would be forgotten. The achievement would be reduced to a footnote, a historical marker with sparse details, but White ensures the story survives, gets recorded, gets preserved. This is how history works. Someone must write it down. Someone must care enough to preserve it. White cared. His father's company was saved by Walsh. He knew the story mattered, made sure it survived. A historical marker stands today at the Pearl Street Bridge, northeast corner, knee level, installed 1988 by the Junior League of Grand Rapids. It describes the jam, the destruction, the heroic response at Grand Haven. Reads in part, one of the most devastating events in Grand Rapids history occurred on the morning of July 26, 1883. 2 weeks of record-setting rains had raised the Grand River to flood stage. When lumbermen tried to take advantage of the high water to float their logs downstream, a tremendous 7-mile log jam was created above the Grand Trunk Railroad Bridge, 2 miles north of downtown. On the morning of July 26th, the jam broke loose. Over 600,000 logs rushed downriver, tearing out every railroad bridge in the city as they went. For 2 hours, residents watched helplessly as the logs roared by. For a time, it was feared the entire mass would flow all the way to Lake Michigan, but heroic lumberjacks at Grand Haven built booms strong enough to stop the logs short of the open water. Fortunately, no lives were lost, but timber losses and property damages were estimated at over $500,000. The marker doesn't name Walsh specifically, calls them heroic lumberjacks. This is unfortunate. Walsh deserves naming, deserves specific recognition, but at least the event is marked. The story is told. Partially, incompletely, but preserved. The Grand River logging era doesn't last much longer. Within a few years, the heyday is over. The forests are depleted. The easily accessible timber is cut. The remaining timber is too far, too expensive to transport. The logging industry moves west, to Wisconsin, to Minnesota, to the Pacific Northwest. Grand Rapids transitions, focuses purely on furniture manufacturing, importing lumber rather than producing it locally. The river's role changes from log highway to industrial waterway to recreational resource, eventually to urban amenity. The log drives end, the boom companies close, the rivermen find other work, or retire, or die. The skills vanish, the knowledge dies with them. Within a generation, nobody remembers how to drive logs, how to break jams, how to build booms. The expertise is lost. What remains are photographs, a few written accounts, museum displays, historical markers, and one gold watch. Physical proof that it all happened, that men like Walsh existed, that impossible challenges were overcome, that courage mattered, that skill mattered, that one person could make a difference. Modern Grand Rapids has a population of about 200,000. The furniture industry still exists, but has shrunk. Overseas competition, changing markets, economic shifts. But Grand Rapids survives, thrives even, became a healthcare center, an education hub, a diverse economy. Much of this wouldn't exist without the 1883 save, without Walsh stopping those logs. If the industry had collapsed then, the city would have collapsed. Nothing would have replaced it. Grand Rapids would be another failed logging town, abandoned, forgotten. Instead, it's a vibrant city, a regional center, all traceable back to one moment, one decision, one man refusing to give up, building a boom that shouldn't have worked, making it hold, saving everything. This is the power of individual action, individual courage, individual skill. Walsh didn't have advanced technology, didn't have sophisticated equipment, had a pile driver, some chains, a crew, and determination. That was enough, made it enough, changed history, saved a city, became a hero, got a gold watch, got remembered, at least partially, at least enough that we can tell this story, can honor his achievement, can recognize that heroes are real, that they existed, that they saved things, that they mattered. Captain John Walsh mattered. His boom mattered. His courage mattered. This is what we remember. This is why it matters. This is the story of the deadliest log jam in American history, and the one-armed engineer who stopped it.